Hello everyone, and welcome to our museum exhibit tour guide. So this video will provide an in-depth guide on what the visitors would experience in our exhibit. So this is more of a physical representation of our exhibit or slash museum. So let's start the tour. So as we enter the museum, we're shown the introduction panel, and pretty much there's an info panel giving us a brief exhibit explanation to the visitors of the purpose of this exhibit and why it was created. So our topic of the exhibit is the weapons used during the Korean War, and pretty much what we hope to help visitors learn is that we hope to educate the audience of the various weapons that were used in the Korean War to help them and this is also because is we also want to let the audience know about the immense progression the United States has made in their military technologies and their devastating effects of those new technologies. So this is pretty much the introductory panel, and we this is the Korean War exhibit, and it's made by Andy, Jimmy, and me, myself, David. So this is second floor, but we will continue on to the first floor. So as we go on to the first floor, the visitors actually around here the visitors will sense this odor, this smell of like grime, dirt, and coldness, and this is pretty much just to give you more a simulation of the fighting conditions throughout the war. So this is our first introductionary panel, and it's on bombs and missiles, and it's more on napalms and incendiary bombs. So there's pretty much this info panel. What this info panel does is that it informs the visitors of like the napalms and the incendiary bombs that were used by the U.S. in the Korean War. And napalms and incendiary bombs were the most common types of bombs dropped during the Korean War due to their effectiveness in taking down the enemy tanks and causing extremely high damage to enemy lines and shelters. And pretty much what the visitors can learn from this is that napalms and incendiaries paved a huge path for the United States in the Korean War, and how these features proved why these bombs are so commonly used by the American forces. And pretty much what these books represent are like the tablets that people would see. Unfortunately, this game is a little limited, so we had to make do with just books and such to simulate that these were tablets. And this info panel would be where all the information we put in our written explanation would be. Over to our right is our missile. It's our model of a missile. Yes, it's a little cheesy with the TNT. And what this is, it's a display of the ASM-A1 guided missile used by the U.S. along with their artilleries and bombs. And what this guided missile does is it helps the visitors visualize the deadly instrument of war that the Americans used, and it kind of helps them learn of like the powerful artilleries that were used by the U.S. And surrounding the missile are as you can see it's the guided missile. Surrounding the missile are tablets, quote unquote tablets, and that visitors can play with to view pictures and videos of like how this missile was constructed and how it impacted many lives. And this would be like the first step, and this would be another tablet. So four people can all look at the missile and see like what it is and how it worked at the same time. So as we go down to our right, this is also another information panel about missiles, and this is more about the artilleries and such. This is also included in a writing speech. So yeah, that's what this info panel is. And as we move on to the right, we go to our vehicles. And this is our info panel on aircraft, LVTs, and heavy vehicles, all that fun stuff. And this gives information on the various vehicles used in the Korean War and specifically the aircrafts. This is like the aircraft section more most. And this educates the audience on the types of aircraft used during the war, such as bomber aircraft, interceptors, and attack aircraft. And this will also inform the audience on how we were able to use these aircraft to push back the North Koreans and the Chinese troops and the Soviets, not really Soviets, but and this information will just have many pictures of such of the armored vehicles and LTVs, and that will just give an audience a physical view of what these vehicles look like. And this is another touchscreen touchpad section, and these are all just pictures of the vehicles, like they're just quote unquote pictures of the vehicles. And what these touchpad screens will help the audience is that they can scroll through many models of the tanks and aircraft that they used, such as like the P-51 Mustang or the Boeing B-29 or the M46 Patton medium tank. And this will just expand the audience's knowledge of like the extensive number and types of vehicles used during the Korean War. So two people can look at this at the same time. Just go up the stairs. And now this is probably the most entertaining part. Oh yeah, just in addition to all those vehicles and aircraft, this is the tank info section, and this will go a little in depth about four tanks. So one there, one there, one there, one there, and it goes in depth about the M26 Pershing, the M24 Chaffee, which is actually a physical model right there, the M46 Patton, and the M4 Sherman. And we will pretty much just talk about the features and uses in the war, which is what the audience can see and read from there. And and this is probably the coolest part of our museum is that we actually fit in a life-size like model, of course, not like an actual tank, but like a life-size model of the M24 Chaffee. And we chose this tank because it was pretty small, and we were able to fit it in the 24 by 24 feet museum that was given to us. And we thought it was very cool because the visitors can get the opportunity to walk up and actually get inside the tank and just see what the interior looked like. And that's pretty much what the M24 Chaffee is. And this is just the info panel about the M24 Chaffee more specifically. This is just the sign that we put on. So this is pretty much probably the coolest aspect of our museum. Just a 360, a physical representation of what the tank looked like. Now you might be wondering why the tank is brown, and the funny thing is the M24 Chaffee was not green or such. It was actually more a brownish color. Of course, this is a little darker than what we wanted, but the types of material we were able to use were a little limited, so we chose this type of brown. But it definitely was brown, just not this dark brown. But it was actually a brown tank, which actually took us by surprise as well. So this is pretty much the tank section and the vehicle section, and that's the aircraft section, missiles, and such. And now we can go upstairs to the firearms exhibit. And the coolest part of our exhibit is that as we go upstairs, not only does it give us info panels about the guns used, it gives us a balcony view of the tank, which we thought was actually very cool, and it kind of gives us a physical view of like the whole museum in itself. We didn't build the roof just because we thought the daylight in the game would just make everything pop much better. Of course, in like a real life museum, this would be closed off so that you know it protects people from rain and the weather and such. But we just left this out just so the daylight could just give us better lighting for the video. But anyways, onto the second floor, which is the balcony or the firearms section. So as we just came, as we just came up those stairs and we were at the balcony, this is the info section for the various firearms used in the Korean War. And these are two info panels that provide details and informations about the various weapons that were used in the war. But more specifically, shotguns, rifles, handguns, carbines, flamethrowers, and automatic weapons that the U.S. used in the war. And this would just be all information about those weapons. And these three panels are they're actually so what these portrayals or like these symbols, they're actually supposed to be more a representation of the physical models of the weapons. So what we plan on is doing is like a glass case where we actually put a model of the guns and the audience can see how big and what it looked like of the guns. So we were considering that one would be The Browning, which was an automatic weapon that was used. One would be a flamethrower, and flamethrowers were actually used very prematurely in the beginning, but was replaced by flamethrower tanks. But we also thought it was just cool to see that it still was used and was still active in the beginning side of the war. So this would be the Browning, the automatic rifle that was extremely powerful. This would be, and it's actually quite big, which is why we did 3 blocks. And the flamethrower as well, there's 3 blocks. And this would be possibly a section for sniper rifles or some machine guns. We're thinking of the Garand, putting the M1 Garand and possibly the Enfield just to show that the wide variety of sniper rifles that were used in the Korean War. And sniper rifles were quite important in the Korean War as well, just because the combat wasn't as upfront compared to combat in like World War II and World War One. It was more support and a lot of auto machine gunning, which we would put there, and sniper rifles were extremely essential through the war. So that pretty much just covers up what the firearm information section is on the balcony. So that's pretty much our physical tour of our museum. So in conclusion, it was the models, the images that would be put up here. The audience or the visitors will surely experience and learn of like the various weapons of the Korean War and their effects. And not only will this total exhibit, educate the audience of the weapons of the Korean War, it'll also let the audience know the devastating effects and the colossal scale the weapons were used. Like a very cool part of our tank is that this is a life-size model, so when a human actually like like goes right next to it, it would be this tall and this enormous, or it's a little, yeah, it would be around this height, and it just shows you how big and how enormous it was, and it kind of gives you a reality of what soldiers faced throughout the war. Like just imagine just going through combat and something like this just comes up and just fires this giant bullet at you that explodes right in front of you. It has to be extremely frightening. So it gives us a realization of the devastating effects these models and missiles, these tanks and missiles have, and all the firearms up there. And that's pretty much our physical. That's pretty much our exhibit. It's on the Korean War, and once again, it's made by me, Jimmy, and Andy. And that's it. That's it. That's our exhibit, the Korean War exhibit. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.